right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first official stream from the official Fizz Facebook page. Um, I, like I said a few streams back, we're thinking we really want to start building this out a little bit as sort of like its own brand, and this is kind of the first step of that. So yeah, welcome aboard. Not seeing too many people on yet, but I figured that would be the case. For some reason, people tend to jump onto these a little bit faster if it's coming from a personal page than uh, an actual like page. But that's fine because as time rolls on, if you guys will share this video like I have onto my personal profile, we'll see if we can get this out there a little bit because I'm excited about this one. This one that we're gonna do tonight, this week, is something that I have been looking forward to my entire life. I never thought I'd actually get a chance to experience this. Um, and the cool thing is you guys may get a chance to experience it too if you're willing to. Um, you know, I mean, it's not cheap, but so basically, why we're here tonight, as you saw advertised for the last couple of days. Hey, my mom is watching. She says good morning. Where she is, it's morning. She's in Israel right now, so she's watching me from clear across the world, across the ocean, probably a couple of oceans. I don't know my geography, but hello to my mom and anyone else on her Israel team that may be watching this right now. It's morning where you guys are. So I'm glad that you are joining me for this. I see Chelsea's on. I see Pat is on. Welcome aboard, guys. So, like I said, this right here is probably one of the. This is one of the most. I want to say interesting streams for me personally because this is something that I didn't think I was ever going to get to actually experience. You should sell the Fizz merchandise. Maybe. I'd have to make some first. Um, but yeah, I never thought I'd actually get a chance to experience this because what I've got in my hand here is something I never thought I would actually touch. So a lot of you are looking at this right now, and you're just like, "New Coke? What in the world?" A lot of people younger than me have no idea what this is. Some of you who are older than me have got a chance to experience. Basically, what this is, it was discontinued for the last 34 years, and it is coming back thanks to our good friends over on Netflix who make Stranger Things. Probably one of the best shows on Netflix. So, Stranger Things is set in the mid '80s. So I think the last season there was a scene in one of the episodes where a vending machine showed an advertisement for New Coke, and a lot of people were just like, "What's that?" A lot of younger people in the viewing audience who had no idea what that was. So this is very much this is very much a nostalgia comeback for a lot of people, but also an opportunity to introduce a new generation to this. Now, what this is back in 1985, so the year before I was born in 1986. Coca Cola had been in business making the same Coke formula and selling the same Coke formula for almost 100 years. And what happened was somewhere in the early to mid 80s, Pepsi started getting really, really popular. I mean, really popular. So, hey, upset I missed the last one, had to tune in. Well, actually, the archive is still on this page, but I'm glad that you were able to make it for this one, Chelsea. And also, Sarah, never heard of it until you post a while back. Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people younger than me have never heard of this because this came out so a year before in 1985, a year before I was born, which was in '86. Um, Pepsi had really been nipping at Coke's heels in the market. They were coming in fast. They were coming in hot. A lot of people were kind of switching away from Coke and starting to drink Pepsi. And so Coke was getting a little scared, and I'm not sure how they came to this conclusion, but they kind of came to the conclusion that the problem was their formula. Now, market analysts in the last 34 years have basically concluded that it wasn't the formula that was the problem, it was the marketing. Um, Pepsi was marketing to a new generation. Their slogan was the taste of a new generation. They were marketing themselves as the thing that the cool kids were drinking. Coke, your parents drank Coke. Pepsi's the cool thing to drink now. So a lot of younger people switched to that. Um, so what they did is Coke made a relatively short-sighted and hasty, in a lot of people's opinion, decision to discontinue their classic Coke formula, which they've been selling that for almost 100 years, and they decided that they were going to reinvent the Coca-Cola formula. And they were basically trying to make it, from what I understand from people who tried this when it was out, some people who were old enough to try this say they remembered it tasted kind of like Pepsi, like it was trying to imitate Pepsi's flavor. Now we've seen that in the market before. I don't know if you guys remember the original Mr. Pibb formula in the '90s. Dr. Pepper sued Mr. Pibb and forced them to change their formula because it tasted so much like Dr. Pepper. So if you get Pibb Extra today, I remember when Mr. Pibb, I couldn't find Mr. Pibb anymore. All of a sudden, and I loved Mr. Pibb when I was a kid, and so I found Pibb Extra, and I was like, "Well, was that Mr. Pibb?" Sort of. It's a little bit different than the flavor that it used to be. I remember it tasting so close to Dr. Pepper that they that it was so it tasted so close to Dr. Pepper that I couldn't really tell the difference unless I was really paying attention. And so I think Dr. Pepper got tired of that, and they told Mr. Pibb, "Hey, change your formula," and they complied. So that's not the first. So this may be. I don't know if it's the first time that's happened in the market where the guy who's falling behind starts to try and imitate the guy who's starting to pull ahead. But that's what happened with Coke in 1985. So they discontinued the original Coke formula. They started selling this, and people got mad. I mean, like super mad. I've heard reports of like delivery drivers who couldn't get out of their truck because they would deliver a truck full of this to convenience stores or grocery stores or whatever, and they would get mobbed. Like there would be angry mobs protesting and wouldn't let the guys get out of their truck, told them to leave. um, I remember I think I saw something about how like the customer support complaint line for Coke had a daily average of less than 500 calls a day. All of a sudden, those calls surged to like more than 1,500 a day. It was a PR disaster. They did not like it. The market did not want it. People who were loyal to Coke loved it, loved the classic flavor and the classic formula so much that basically they ran new Coke out of town. And within, I want to say inside of 8 months, so less time than the gestation of a human baby, um, this was gone. They pulled it off the shelves, they discontinued it, and they brought back the original Coke formula, now branding it as Coca-Cola Classic. So most of you have grown up, and when you have a can of Coke, the word classic shows up next to that. Well, the reason they put that on there is to reassure everybody, hey, this is it. Like, we went back to the old formula. Don't worry, this isn't the new formula anymore. So that all happened the year before I was born. They brought the old Coke back, and they've been selling it consistently for the last 34 years. But now, Stranger Things showed that new Coke vending machine in the scene of one of their last episodes, and So now Coke decided, I'm not sure how they got to this, but they were just like, hey, what if we release it again? We'll still keep selling regular Coke Classic, but what if we release this so that the young viewers of Stranger Things can actually try it? So I'm not sure how long. It's a very limited time only. I'm sure it itself may go away again in another 8 months. I don't know. I had to order it online. I had to go on Coke's website and order this. But when I saw an advertisement for it, I knew I had to try it. So that's what brings us to today. So enough of a history lesson. Are you guys ready to see what I think of this? Because I'm ready. I've been waiting for this for 32 years. And um, I have grown up knowing about this. I've grown up knowing what this was, and I've always been curious. My whole life I've been curious. So, real quick, a comment here. Ricky says, "You old enough to remember Pepsi Clear?" I am, and they brought that back like 4 years ago. I think they brought that back a few years back, and it tasted like Pepsi, just clear. But I think I remember when it first came out, it didn't sell well. They pulled it, they re-released it with a lemon lime flavor, and that didn't work out very well. So they pulled it again, and then a decade later, they re-released that same formula, the Pepsi Clear with lemon lime flavor. They re-released that as Sierra Mist. So, but I don't think I remember actually having Pepsi Clear the first time it came around. Stranger Things is the new Goonies. Change my mind. I'm not even gonna try. You're right. You're right. All right. So without any further ado, 30 years in the making, 32 years in the making. I'm ready to get into this and see what all the fuss was about for the new Coke. So as you see, we got the cup, we got the ice. So let's have that satisfying pop of the pop tab. I hope y'all out there in digital land are giving me a drum roll because I don't have a set of drums in this house at the moment. They're at my parents' house. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Pop tab. So you know how we do first thing we do. Oh, before we do that, before we do the sniff test, which is next, like I said, the big thing was Coke versus Pepsi. They were doing that rivalry back in the 80s, which spawned this whole thing in the first place. So I've got a poll up because the market was so swiftly divided. Gun to your head, if you had to choose one or the other of the big two players at the top of the mountain, would you prefer Coke or would you prefer Pepsi? So you can go ahead and vote for that as I do the sniff test. It definitely does not smell like Coke. It kind of does smell like Pepsi. It's definitely sweeter than the classic Coke formula. Okay, so it does kind of smell like Pepsi a little bit, but like not all the way there. Like it smells like it's trying to be Pepsi. Full cards on the table. I'm a Pepsi guy. I've always loved Pepsi. My grandfather and I would drink Pepsi together in the morning when I would go over to his house when I was a kid. It was his favorite thing to drink, so he'd have that earlier in the day, and then he'd have coffee in the morning, and then he'd have Pepsi earlier in the day. So, big fan of Pepsi. So, with that said, let's do this. Okay. So this with the aroma going into the air here, it kind of smells like a mixture of both. Honestly, it kind of smells like a bit of a Pepsi, but also with almost like you mixed a little bit of Coke with it, but not quite. So yeah, I mean I like the smell of it, but smelling is only one step in the battle. So uh, 32 years later, or 33 years later now. Cheers. Hmm. All right. So, give me a sec on this one. This is interesting. So it is reminding me of the Pepsi flavor, but it's not quite there. Like, so I like this. I think I would have liked this back in 1985, but I don't know. It was probably also a culture thing as well. But it is definitely a far cry away from the classic Coke flavor. But there's a hint of it there. It is, I think, a little sweeter than the classic Coke flavor. Actually, you know what this tastes like? I don't know how many of you. My mom buys this all the time. I've got a pack of it at home or at their. There's a couple of packs of it at their house right now. Actually, they find it every now and again. They find Pepsi with natural cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. This is reminding me of that. Now, this actually, to my knowledge, doesn't have the actual cane sugar in it. I think it actually does have the corn syrup, but there are no nutrition facts on this can. Is that even legal? Anyway, I don't think that they actually use the actual cane sugar for this, but this is kind of reminding me of that. But also, if I had maybe like a little bit of the actual Coca Cola in it as well. So it's a little bit sweeter than regular Pepsi. It's a little bit sweeter than regular Coke. Um, it is definitely imitating Pepsi. It doesn't go all the way, but it's noticeable. Also, very, very high carbonation. I can't get through a sentence without trying to burp. Yeah, so this is kind of reminding me of that pure cane sugar Pepsi. Um, I can see why people got upset about this in a sense that a lot of people maybe like both. Like they like Coke and they like Pepsi and they'll drink both. Like I'll drink both. Not at the same time, obviously, but I'll drink both. Uh, Sometimes I'm in the mood for a Pepsi. Sometimes I'm in the mood for a Coke product. And if you were to have this replace classic Coke in the market forever, it would if I would think it would take away a sense of variety. Do I want red Pepsi or do I want blue Pepsi? Do I want real Pepsi or do I want wishes I was Pepsi? Like, so I think it was probably more of an on principle thing than an actual preference. Like a lot of people didn't like it because they did like it, but they also knew that with it tasting so much like Pepsi, it probably would have gotten old and they wouldn't have wanted it anymore. And then, they would have been looking for other things. But then also, I've heard over the years, like I said, this happened a year before I was born. So all of this is secondhand to me. I've heard that a lot of people just, you know, it was one of those instances where they just kind of took the classic Coke flavor for granted. They never really did a lot to show how much they really liked it until it was gone. And then they were freaking out. They were just like, wait, I liked that. Why did you take that away? Oh, no, I never told you I liked it. I just assumed you knew that I liked it because I kept spending money on it. Like that kind of deal. But But yeah, I can see why people were upset about this. Um, but from a purely objective, experiential standpoint, I like this. From a flavor standpoint, the only issue is um, bit of an odd aftertaste, and it doesn't hit immediately. It's like not even on my tongue so much as it is kind of back here a little bit. Um, it's the kind of aftertaste I get from knockoff Coke flavors like RC Cola, like the cheap ones, RC Cola, or like Sam's Choice Cola or whatever. But it's not as strong. It's there. It's not as strong, but it exists. So yeah, uh, that's where I am on that. So let me look at some of these comments here because I've got a few that I missed. So from the poll standpoint, it looks like Pepsi is winning out by a very strong margin here, 67% to 33%. That's surprising me actually. Um, what's up, Max? Made it on time. One sip, everyone knows the rules. Well, yeah, I kind of violated that. I've been eager. I've been waiting 32 years for this, Ricky. Uh, I want to try it now. I think the Walmart carries the cane sugar Pepsi. I think it does actually. Uh, so here's the thing. I don't know if this is going to hit stores. I've got a little notice here at the bottom of the can. I don't know if you can see that it says not for retail sale. The way that I got this is I went on to Coke's website when I saw a Facebook ad, and you kind of had to order. There was like a $15 gift pack uh, with like classic Coke bottle and design and stuff like that. You had to get, and then you got 2 cans of this with it. Um, so I'm to my knowledge that's the only way to get it. I don't know uh, if it's going to hit the stores. It would be smart if it hit stores. If Coke sold it in stores just for a little bit, I know it's going to be gone soon. I know it's not going to last very long, but I think it would be smart if they actually sold it in stores for a little while. Pepsi. Oh my goodness, Chelsea! I completely forgot about Pepsi Twist. I loved Pepsi Twist. If you don't remember, Pepsi Twist was Pepsi with lemon flavor, and for a long time, I would buy lemon juice and I would make it because I loved it a lot. Like it was only out for a few years, but I drank it obsessively for a few years when I was a kid. I don't know why they pulled it because I loved it. Um, did, yeah, I bought it in a pack. You were hoping it would be terrible. You know, I'm actually, uh, I'm not. I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't, because the visceral reaction that I heard. I mean, I've seen videos of people protesting outside of stores, and I'm like, it must have tasted awful. But apparently they weren't like, they knew they didn't want to release something that objectively tasted bad. They just wanted something that tasted closer to the product that they thought was about to give them some serious heartburn from a business standpoint. Um, Lemonade, I might try that sometime. Put lemonade in it. Make your own Pepsi Twist. I would love to see them bring Pepsi Twist back. That was so good. I haven't thought about that in years. So if I was going to go with a star rating, gosh, I'm not sure what criteria to grade it by, but because from an experiential standpoint, the star rating is going to be a little bit higher. From an experiential standpoint, it's probably going to be about a 3.5 out of 5 star rating. From a from the standpoint of this is what I'm used to, Coke Classic versus this is what I now have. If I were to put myself in the mindset of this thing that I loved is gone forever, and I now have this thing that tastes like something else that already exists, if that was the criteria that I was living under, I probably would have stuck a 2.5, maybe a 1.5 out of 5 star rating for it. Um, just because, you know, it just didn't seem like the smartest thing to do from a business standpoint. A lot of people who didn't like Pepsi but liked Coke would have been very offended by this. So I can understand. I can understand that. However, I like both. So I got a feeling if I'd have been around in 1985, I would have been the guy who would have been like, "Well, I wish they wouldn't have got rid of the old formula, but this isn't bad." You know, if they had to replace it, this works. And then I would have been stoned to death in broad daylight in the street. So um, that's it. That's New Coke. I I feel like it is a little bit anticlimactic just because I've grown up drinking something that tastes like this, but it's interesting to get that window, that glimpse back in time, as to what it used to look like, and how the market responded to it back in the day. Uh, so let's see here. Star rating needs to be a Fizz criteria. I guess. I mean, if y'all want it, I'm here to serve you. Uh, I'm drinking these sodas, so you don't have to. Uh, I remember Pepsi Twist commercials with Hal- Hallie Hallie Eisenberg turning into Halle Berry, turning into Oh wow, yeah, the zipper, yeah. I forgot, man. That was the '90s, man. I missed the '90s. The '90s were great. Uh, so yeah, um, yeah, that's New Coke. I have to say, don't hate it. Definitely don't hate it as much as apparently most of the market hated it back in 1985. But I think part of that has to do with the fact that I know that in 2019, Classic Coke still exists, and there's no threat of it going away. Um, I feel like that's a lesson that Coke had to learn the hard way back in 1985. Hey, we're selling something that people love. We don't have anything to worry about. And I mean, obviously they didn't, because, uh, you know, this did more damage to Coke than the classic formula was doing, than Pepsi was doing. This posed more of a threat to Coke than Pepsi did. And once they got rid of it, here in 2019, the two giants at the top of the pile are still Coke and Pepsi. So, although, if it's anything, if the poll that we're looking at tonight is any indication, 67% of you prefer Pepsi, and 33% of you prefer Coke. So, that's that's about where I am with that. All right, so yep, that's my experience. I'm glad I finally got to try this. And the cool thing is, I have a second can of it. So, uh, the experience isn't completely over yet, but that's probably the last time I'm ever going to get to try it, because they're probably never going to release it again. So, we'll see. Maybe it'll be a, biannual thing. I don't know. But if you guys want to try it, I would suggest getting on Coke's website as soon as possible. And, you're going to have to make a special order. I don't know if they only sell the new Coke, like by itself. I think it comes in like a gift pack that has like 2 bottles of classic Coke, like one classic Coke and one with Coke Zero. So, do not forget Dr. Pepper. I love Dr. Pepper. I've always loved Dr. Pepper. My whole life I've loved Dr. Pepper. Um, but, from an objective look at the market, Coke and Pepsi are up here, and then Dr. Pepper is like down here. So, like Coke and Pepsi, and then Dr. Pepper, like literally on both of their heels. I know there was a time in history where Dr. Pepper was at the top of the pile, but unfortunately, today's market does not reflect that anymore. But I do love me some Dr. Pepper. Although I wish you could still find the pure cane sugar Dr. Pepper, because that stuff is legit. I think Coca-Cola was caught between a rock and a hard place. They had to learn to be happy with second place and the billions that earns them. Yeah, and you could argue that they have fluctuated over the years. Like sometimes they're at the top and Pepsi's right beneath them, and then other times it just they're just bobbing up and down between the two of them, like two rafts on the ocean, just kind of like going up and down. But that for the most part, neither of these guys are. You can't touch either of them. I mean, a lot of new things have come out over the years, and none of them have ever got the market share that Coke or Pepsi has. So, big deal, very big deal for those guys. So, that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this first stream on our official Fizz Facebook page. There will be plenty more to come. Actually, stay tuned on this page over the next several days because next week I'm going to be trying something that I guarantee none of you have ever heard of, none of you ever would have thought of, and absolutely every single one of you, myself included, will probably be a little bit grossed out by. But that's all I'm going to give you tonight. Stay tuned for the announcement next week for what we're going to try. And I will see you on the flip side. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video around. Hashtag FizzNation. And we will see you next week. Thank you so much.